Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and I'm terribly sorry for my long silence, but I was consecutively ill. I don't know what it was. I think it was a flu. It was not the bad C, at least as far as I can tell, but I was really moving from one cold flu to another. So I'm finally back. My voice might still sound a little bit odd, but I'm really eager, or was eager, going back to my little basement, aka studio, to give you some more board game content. And here we are, me walking you through a couple of rounds of Catherine, the cities of the Tsarina, or Katharina, die Städte der Zaren. This is pretty much the English and German version of the game. I guess there is a completely English version out there, which at least an English cover or so, but again, this game is really language independent. Of course, there are the rules, but again, this version of the rules comes with both English and German, so I think I should be good. I will walk you through a two-player game today, and you can really play this game absolutely fine from 2 to 4 players. There is no solo mode, at least nothing official as far as I know, at least not part of the rules. And again, a 2, 3 or 4 player game, there is not really a lot of differences. Yes, there are some majorities in respect to the books, in respect to the canon. In a 2-player game, you're also not using those, where are those Joker tokens here, but again, not at the end of the world. Totally enjoyable with just 2 players, and I was really very pleasantly surprised because this was more or less a blind buy at Essen Spiel this year for me. I only read a little bit about this game, but I'm a huge fan of a lot of DLP or games from or published by DLP, like Orleans, still one of my top 10 games today, I would say. Again, I was very confident that I would enjoy this game, and after playing it a couple of times, I really say, yeah, it's definitely an amazing game. Very simple, relatively low rules overhead, but still a lot of very meaningful decisions in this one. So yeah, I think let's start the game. So here we have the setup for a 2-player game, which again doesn't really deviate from a 3-player or 4-player game all that much, other than we have one goods token per player in each of those cities, which come with a goods token. So there's really no taking away from this. On a 3-player game, there would be 3 tokens in each of those cities, and of course, yeah, you would see more player components here. So here we have the favor track. This is the victory point marker, but again, setup doesn't really change a whole lot. Each of the players start with a random order card. So here we have the order card for the blue player. They're all not really different, quite honestly. They all come with the same amount of goods token that you have to, or you want to acquire until the end of the game. And yeah, the better you do, the more points you will score at the end of the game. So if I will be able, or the blue player will be able to collect 5 of these goods tokens until the end of the game, they will be able to score 5 points. If it's 6, it's 8 points, or 12 points if they collect all 7. You don't have to do that necessarily, but of course it helps you winning the game. Again, this is the one for the red player. It doesn't really show a whole lot of other things, but they may want to focus on different parts of the map in order to acquire those goods tokens. The game plays over 3 decades, and each decade consists of 4 rounds, and this is what we will cover. So you basically do, yeah, I think 12 actions throughout the game. There are some, let's say, bonus things that you can do on top of your normal actions, so it might feel that you are doing a little bit more or less than those 12, but again, in most instances, it's around 12 things or 12 cards that you are triggering throughout the game or using throughout the game. And in this case, again, there is no real starting player or so. Everything is more or less done simultaneously. And the first thing that you do, kind of part of setup, is to choose 3 cards from the 6 cards you have been dealt to basically bring out into your action row. So you have an action row, which is this one here. This will take 7 cards, no more, no less, until the end of the round, or the era, or the decade in this case. And beneath it we have an activation row, where you also have to play cards later on in order to really, as it says, activate the card that is on top of it. So that's already a decision I have made for the blue and the red player. So here we have the 3 cards for the blue player, whereas here we have the 3 cards for the red players. The colors of those cards definitely do matter. In respect to the different actions that they provide, it's not really that big of a difference. The only thing that you have to, let's say, kind of understand that each of those cards comes with a top card, with a bottom card. On the top card there are some, let's call it virtual resources. This could be books, this could be any of those goods symbols here. The good symbols on those cards do not count for your end of game objective here. There you really have to collect those physical tokens in order to achieve those, but they will still help you to satisfy requirements that are on the cards, let's say throughout the game, like this one here. It's asking for 2 of those symbols here, and for each of the symbols that you have at that point in time, you will get a card if you're activating this action here. And this is already 1, 2, and 3 symbols here. No, 4 symbols here. So they would already collect an awful lot of cards simply by having those. Physical tokens will also add on to that. But that's basically what you have to understand from these cards. A top one, which is coming with virtual resources, and the bottom part, which comes with some actions. A lot of those do have bonus actions, like this one down here. But in order to trigger the bonus action, you also have to take the, let's say, normal actions at least once. Sometimes you can do that once. This one can only be triggered once, as the little one shows in here, whereas this one here, for example, you could trigger an endless amount of times, as I already showed. But again, this card doesn't come with an actual bonus here. But again, I will explain you all the actions as I go. Now it's really time to start the game. And I think that I will play the blue player a little bit openly. So let's have a look at the hand of cards here. And the first thing that you do at the start of each round is to draw 2 cards from the deck of cards. So you always have at least 2 cards available, because that's the next thing that you have to do. We have to play 1 card face down basically into the action row and 1 card below the activation row in order to make sure that you are doing something during that round. That's why you always are allowed to draw 2 extra cards. And another thing to note, the 2 cards that you're drawing as part of this stage of the round do not count against your hand limit, which at the start of the game is only 3, as you can tell from your favorite track in here. So the left column here is your hand limit. These are points that you would get at the end of each era. Again, you will score that 3 times. And this last column here is somewhat of a multiplier that will kick in at the end of the game, and you multiply that by pretty much the largest group of contingent cities that you have on the board. Contiguous cities that you have on the board, sorry for that. And yeah, so basically if I would have these cities here connected at the end of the game, and that's my largest group, that's basically 3 times the multiplier here. So you really have to move your favorite token up in order to score anything, and obviously you can do that up to 4 up here in order to score the majority of victory points. So this is really something which you should pay attention to, because it will really score you an awful lot of points at the end of the game. But yeah, going back to the blue player, we have those 5 cards available now. And again, we have to play 1 card now. Again, we will start face down, and then simultaneously all the players will reveal the 2 cards they have played, and then they will also activate those cards simultaneously, because again, in this stage of the game, there is no taking away of things. So again, we have to play 1 card here, and then 1 card below any of the cards that we have played on top of the action row in here. So let's say, just for argument's sake, I would play this card here face down. So the next card, in order to activate one of those, needs to go face down below one of those 4. Obviously, you can only play a card where there isn't a card. So if I already played a card here, in the next round I couldn't play another card in the same spot in here. Obviously, you can activate those action cards only once throughout the game, more or less. At the end of a decade, you will do some cleanups, but that's basically how it works. So in order to activate this card here, I would have to play this card here, and in order to activate the card, you have to play the same color of cards. So if I would play a yellow card below a blue card, I can do that. That's totally fine. It's legal, but I would not be able to trigger that action up here. There is a little consolation prize when you do so anyway, or if you choose to do so anyway. So if you really do something like this, you will always be allowed to draw a card instead of taking that action. You can also voluntarily say, oh, I no longer want to do that for whatever reason. So let's say if I would have played a blue card here, I could trigger this action, but I could also say, no, let's draw a card. In this case, it wouldn't make sense, but yeah, keep in mind that this is always allowed. And now I really have to do some thinking. I believe I definitely want to activate maybe this one. The problem is, will I have 2 books available? And that's now really a thing. Now I think we have to look at the card a little bit more. So this card here, which I'm trying to activate right now, again needs a yellow card in order to get activated at all. Let's say I would play this card down here. We are not looking at the symbols on this card whatsoever. In this case, only the color matches for the activation, or just to activate the card on top here. But let's say I would do that. This would allow me for my main action to build a city in one of these three, or a residence in one of these three cities here on the board. I'm not even trying to pronounce those. I think the only one I can really pronounce is here Kharkov, and I think this might be our thing to go to. The bonus, on the other hand, tells me if I have, at this point in time I'm triggering this card, 2 books, or at least 2 books in my action row, and I have a virtual book in here, I would also gain a favor point. The problem really is that the only card, or only other card, that has a book symbol is the card I need in order to activate this one here. So again, I have to play a card up here anyway, but the thing is, all the other cards here do not come with a, oh, that's bad, do not come with a book. So we may want to hold on to that. So I was kind of hoping to get another book icon here, but I wasn't really lucky at all, which might make me think maybe I'm going for something else instead. So maybe I could also debate maybe to go for this one. Then I would have to get rid of a lot of cards, but I would gain at least a favor token here. I would not miss out on things. Here I would simply gain some cards, which could also, maybe that's the better deal right now in order to prep me here. But maybe let's do this first, and then let's go for that in order to refill my hand. Yeah, I think we will do that. So which means, in order to properly use this card here, we have to discard 2 cards in order to build a city in the blue region, anywhere we want, where we don't have a residence already. That's important. You can only have 1 residence per city, but all the other players can still go there. Again, there is no taking away. And then on top of this, if I have at this point in time 2, I think this is leather, in my action row, again, only the top row counts, I would also gain a favor point. And I think that's what we are going to do. So in this case, I will play this card here, because again, I need 2 leather. Let's play it face down, and in order to activate this card again, I need to go for a blue card. And I think in this case, it's either this or that. We could trigger this twice if we are playing our cards correctly, but I think it's a long shot. So no, we are playing this card here face down in order to activate that. Now I have to do some thinking for the red player, and then I will reveal both of those cards, or yeah, basically 4 of those cards simultaneously. Okay, I did the trick for the red player. We are revealing our cards, so we are doing this and that, which again means we are activating this card. This will be a potential thing for a future round to come. We will not resolve all those up to 7 cards in the very first, let's say, era of the game or decade of the game, but some we are kind of prepping for a future round, and in some cases we just play them in order to have the resources available, which we do in here. And here we also have a cannon, which will help us with some of the majorities, which I will come to a little bit later. So let's simply start with the green player while we are here. So again, we are activating this green card. It's a green card which needs to get activated. Again, this is simply a, let's call it a blank green card, just to trigger this one up here. And this is kind of the same card that the blue player chose, but in a green region in this case. So again, we have to, what it says, we have to discard 2 cards, any cards we really get to choose. And oof, in this case, I don't really know actually. Do we want... Let's discard those 2 cards. Again, they are simply out of the game for now. They might come back. We will hold on to 1 card. So we have done this. And in this case, it means we are allowed to build a residence in the green region. And looking at my order card here, I think we want grain or wheat or whatever it is. So I think let's try to start working towards this. So I guess we are activating this. Oh, that's an interesting one. No, that's fine. So we are activating Riga, which simply gives us one of those goods tokens here. Now again, the red player can't go to Riga again. The blue player might as well go again. There are 4 spaces here for a 4-player game. Again, there is no taking away, and in a 3-player game there would be 3 tokens here. But this one already helps towards completing this order card here. So 4 more to go in order to score at least the 5 points. And you want to get at least some points out of this order cards. You don't always necessarily need the 12 points. Ideally you do, but I think the 8 should be our goal in this case. So we have triggered our main action on this card, which now allows us to take the bonus actions here respectively. Again, if we would have opted to say, let's just play another card in order to draw a card, then we wouldn't also be allowed to trigger the bonus action. Or if we wouldn't have been able to discard 2 cards, then we wouldn't have triggered the top main actions, which also would block us or deny us the bonus effect here. But in this case, it's totally fine. We have built that residence. So we have to check, do we have 2 of these horseshoes here? And yes, we have even 3 of those. And yeah, I think that's totally fine, which in this case simply gives us 1 step on the favor track, which means we have just increased our hand size here. Hooray! But that's pretty much already the turn or the activation of the red player. Again, everything is done simultaneously. Let's move back to the blue player here. They're pretty much doing the very same thing actually. So we are activating this card with the blue card. Again, whatever it's printed on here, it doesn't matter, only the color matters. Again, we have to discard 2 cards here. Now I really have to think. I guess we are fine discarding the green card here because there's nothing green right now. So maybe let's get rid of this card here. And on top of this, I guess, that's an interesting one. I guess we want to... I think we are discarding this card here. So this also allows us to play one of our residences in the blue region, anywhere in the blue region. And we are following a similar logic to the red player here. We need those leather goods tiles here for our order card. So let's grab one and place it next or on top of our order card here respectively. Also 4 more to go. But yeah, that's pretty much the very first round of the game. 3 more to go for this decade or era or what it's called. And by the way, at the end of each era, you are doing some kind of an interim scoring. First of all, you check how many cannons each player has. The player with the most cannons gets 4. Then you check how many books they have. They are allowed to play residences out there. You count residences in cities with victory points. You get victory points depending on where you are on the favor track, and then you are doing some cleanup. But this will happen basically after 3 more rounds. And this is how I think I will play for today, just to show you how things go, because by then you really will have seen anything. But yeah, let's move back to the blue player. As I almost forgot, we have our bonus actions here still available. We do have 2 leather symbols here. In theory, we have 3 leather symbols, so this also does count. And this is what I kind of forgot, I believe. But still, I think it's not the end of the world. So we have at least 2 of those. In this case, this also means blue is advancing 1 step here on the favor track respectively. And now we are moving into the next round of the game. Again, at the start of each round, you are drawing 2 cards, which simply means you always have at least 2 cards available. Of course, if you're really down to 0 cards and these are the only 2 cards that you have at your disposal, this might cause an issue. And in this case, I believe we have to play things right. I can't play this one. So in this case, I guess, I want the second book actually. So maybe we do play this green card up here. So we have the second book. So then we could activate this card. Yeah, let's do that. On the other hand, we could also activate this card here, which gives us some things. And then we could still prepare for that. We could still play the card. Maybe let's do that to give us some more cards back, I believe. Honestly, I do think the red player might do something very similar here. This one simply gives us 2 cards, but we don't have the 3 book icons here. This is 2 steps on the favor track. This is massive. So I think let's get some more cards first. So we are playing this card here. We get at least 1, 2, 3 cards. That's really not bad. And I think we wanted to play the green card up here, which also gives us a cannon. Again, after each era, we are comparing the cannon strength or military strength of all of the players in order to score some points. And this card, I think we will hold on to. I will do the same now off camera for the red player. So here we are, and again I will start with the red player because we have already shown what the blue player is about to do. So we will reveal the action card for this row. So this is basically a card, and oops, sorry for the glare, I think that's much better. Smolensk, Reval, or Novgorod. We could build a city later on, but let's see what the activation was in this case. So he's really getting a lot of these green cards here, but we are activating this one here. And again, it's very similar to what the blue player is doing. And again, I'm not doing this deliberately. When I plan for one player, I almost forgot what the other player is up to. But yeah, in this case, it's very simple. We are counting basically all those symbols here. It's this, is it a watch? Is it jewelry? No, it's caviar. I see it now. It's caviar, of course, and leather. And that's, I think, pretty massive, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If I call that correctly, right? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are drawing 4 cards, but now we have to stop for a second because we already do have 1 card here. And drawing 4 more cards would bring us over our hand limit of 4, which in this case means we are only drawing 1, 2, 3 cards. So this is now our hand limit here. We will never draw above our hand limit, at least not during this stage of the game. Again, the 2 cards that you're drawing at the start of each round, they do not count towards your hand limit, but all the other cards that you get throughout the round, through actions and whatnot, they do count. But nothing is lost, because for every card that you are not drawing, you will get 1 victory point instead. And at the end of the game, each card you still have on your hand is also 1 victory point. So increasing your hand size and keeping cards at the end of the game is still worth an awful lot of victory points. So yeah, red is in the lead, hooray! But apart from that, there is no bonus action on this card, which means we can directly move over to the blue player. I forgot to put this card here face down, but of course you have already seen that anyway. And again, we are doing something very similar here. We are activating this card, so for each grain and each caviar, we are getting 1 card. So right, so this is 1, 2, and 3 cards here for the blue player, which is totally okay. Maybe let's see what we get, because we are playing openly. A green card, which we might need in order to activate this card, another blue card that would come in handy, and another yellow card. So at least we have some options here which card we want to use to activate, because I think I do want to activate this card here rather soon. But that's again the end of the turn. Again, no bonus on this card here, so we can simply move into the next round of the game. So again, we are drawing 2 more cards. Again, in this case, the hand limit doesn't matter. We are doing the same thing for the red player. I will have a look at the hand of cards in a moment, but now I really have to also do some thinking here for the blue player. And I do think I want the majorities in cannons. At least looking at the red player, they only have 1 cannon. We have already 2, and in order to seal that, I guess we are going to play this card in here. And I think in this case, do we have 3 books now? Yes, we would have 3 books, so we could go for this card here now, which would give us 2 favor. Oh, maybe we do something differently then. No, let's play this card in here, and then I guess we are activating this card. You don't have to activate those cards from left to right. So far, that was a coincidence. You can activate them all when they are here, obviously. So in this case, we are playing this card. Again, this is face down. I should play it face down. And we are activating this card with this card here. No, I think I like that. And again, I did the same now for the red player. So let's reveal the new action card. That's also a cannon and a book, but I was really looking for this action here, which we could trigger basically once. When we discard 3 cards, we will immediately score 10 points. If all of those cards have the same color, we would also gain 1 step on the favor track. And there is a slight chance we might be able to pull this one off. The only thing I didn't really check through, no, I think we are good. No, I think we are good for this one here. So we will reveal this one here. So that's a green card in order to activate that. So let's start again with the green player here. We are placing one settlement in either Smolensk, Reval or Novgorod. And I think in this case, let's go for Smolensk, which is not necessarily giving us one good style right off the bat, but we are getting one victory point at the end of each era. So we will score 3 points from this step here. And it's also extending our line of settlements here, which we could use later on to really do this multiplier scoring here. Something that's very, very similar to Orléans. And again, I really do like Orléans quite a bit still. So we have done our main egg, and we will score these points only at the end of an era, not right now, but we will also trigger the bonus here. So if we have a set of these resources here on top of this, we will also gain 1 step on the favor track. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, we are good. Unfortunately, we can only do that once. That's true for all of the bonuses as far as I know. The bonus can always only be triggered once, but still, I take it we will score 1 more step here on the favor track, which would give us 1 point at the end of each era here as well. And again, the farther we climb up, the more points we will score. But yeah, that's pretty much both of the main action and the bonus for the red player. Let's now move back to the blue player, and we try to act somewhat surprised in this case. So we will trigger this card here. We will gain 2 cards. The thing is, we are already at our hand limit of 4, which means we are immediately scoring 1, 2 points instead. Blue is in the lead, hooray. And for the bonus, we are counting the amount of books. 1, 2, 3. If we have 3 or more, we will get 2 steps on the favor track. 1 and 2, which now has increased our hand limit by 1. Though that's nice, but unfortunately the main action happens before the bonus, which in this case we will not end up with more cards in our hand, but I take the victory point as well. I think that's nice. And now by accident I saw, okay, we did this exact same thing for the blue player. Yeah, that's the problem. I think there might be certain ways to play this game, and now I'm playing basically the same game for both of the players without even being aware of this. Okay, that's insane. But yeah, that's basically the penultimate round of this era or decade. I really keep forgetting what it is. Let's move into the final round of this one. So again, we can reveal our cards here, and we will draw 2 more cards in here. Again, they do not count towards our hand limit. Again, I will do the same for the red player, and then I really need to do some thinking. The thing is, I would really love to activate this card here, but in order to really optimize this card, I would really... Oh, I can do that. I have 3 green cards. I don't need to do a yellow card. Of course, I need a yellow card to activate it. Oh, that's tempting. That's really, really tempting. Oh, but is there something else? Or do we want to do things slow? Because we would move into the next, basically, era of the game with... Now we are getting extra cards at the end of each era as well. Though this might also not be terrible, actually. But yeah, I think we are okay from a cannon side, at least looking at the blue player, but they could still tie. They're at 2, so maybe I really want to make sure to play another cannon in here, right? So I guess we will play this card in here, just to make sure we are getting the majority in cannons. Are there cards with 2 cannons? I really don't remember right now, and this is, I think, where you need to know. Could also play this one, but I want these 3 cards in here. So no, I think that's fine. The question now really is, do we want to activate this card here or not? And I think we may want to do that. So we are playing this card in here. Okay, let's do that. So I did the magic for the red player too. So let's reveal the card. So we are not activating this one because, again, I want to show you something else, right? So we are going to activate this card here instead. But it's still another book icon, and I think we are... I already forgot. It's really bad. That's really so bad. But okay, we are activating this card here. So for each book icon, we are getting 1 extra card. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's not bad. The thing is, again, we are at our current hand limit of 4, which in this case is okay, because this means blue is scoring 4 points. I take that. And then for the bonus, we are checking, do we have at least 3 cannons? Yes, we do, which in this case also gives us one more step here on the favor track. And I think this was an important one because it increased our hand size, which I think, yes, we may need in a moment, quite honestly. But I think, no, we will get over it anyway. But still, I take it we want to increase. Next time we would score them. 2 steps would have been much nicer, but I think, yeah, there was nothing we could have done in order to get 2 steps at this point in time. But no, those were the actions for the red player. Again, let's reveal our cards here. And yes, it seems we will be... No, we have 4 books with the red player. The red player will gain the majorities for the books, but here we have the cannons. We are going to activate this one here. Again, we are trying to act surprised here. We are discarding 3 cards. These 3 cards are getting discarded, and for this, the blue player will score incredible 10 points, moving them up to 12. That's really insane. And because the 3 cards we have discarded are the same, we are also getting one more step on the favor track. So they will score 2 points from that track. Now that's really nicely done. Still, we have to discard those cards, but I do think this might have been worth it. Cool stuff. Now we check how many cards we do have in our action row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means we have played 4 actions. This will end the era or decade or whatever it is, which means we are doing some entering scoring now. And there is a handy dandy overview here. First of all, we are checking for the majorities. We already did the trick, or the math in this case, so blue will definitely get 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Second will still get 2 points, and I think the tie is very friendly in this game as far as I remember. But still, blue is definitely in the lead here. Let's move back to this one here. Now we are checking the majority of books. We also did the math there, and we know it's the red player, which allows the red player now to place a city anywhere on the map. In a 3 or 4 player game, the last player with the books would gain nothing, and the players in between would gain one of those bonus tokens, wildcard joker tokens, which they could use then later on for their order tokens here. But in this case, again, in a 2-player game, there is only a winner and a loser. And I think, how does it work with ties there actually? I think it's also very friendly as far as I remember. Yeah, it's exactly the point. If they would all have 4 books, then they would both be allowed to place resident. But in this case, red was the clear winner. And I do think we want to extend our line. We also need those horseshoes here. So let's place that in rival. So at least red was able to come a little bit closer to this objective here. And also already has a line of 3 contiguous residences. That's really not terrible. Let's move on with our interim scoring. So each player who has a residence in a city with the victory points get 1 victory point. Right now that's only red with a residence here in Smolensk. So they will score 1 point for that. Up next we are checking basically our favor track and get the victory points from that. And as you might remember, it's 2 points for blue and it's 1 point for red. And I must say blue is really doing pretty well. 1, 2... and 1 more point in here. But also keep in mind, red still has this card available here, so they will also be able to score 10 points at some point throughout the game. So let's not forget about that for sure. Then we are doing some cleanup, which means we are removing all the cards that have been activated this round from our row. So again, we will start the next era, decade, whatsoever with 3 cards. Basically like we did from the start of the game. All the activation cards are getting discarded as well. I will also do that for the blue player, basically reducing things down to this, but that's a good starting point. I mean, these are 2 cannons as well, and we can still do stuff with this city tile here, or city card here. I really do like that. And last but not least in this era, each player is allowed to draw 2 cards at the end, plus the 2 cards we are getting now at the start of the next round. Red is at 4 still, because they haven't really discarded an awful lot of cards. Their hand size is 5, or their limit is 5, which means they're getting one more card, but will also score one more point for that. Whereas the blue player was down to this one measly card, so we will definitely accept the 2 extra cards in here, which we definitely or desperately need for the next round to come. And that's a full era / decade of Catherine, the cities of the Tsarina. And I think that I will stop here with my walkthrough, but I will leave it up to you. If you desperately want me to continue, and I'm pretty sure I will be able to finish this playthrough in a second episode. So again, if you want me to continue, definitely send in your comments, your request whatsoever, then I will consider this. But I'm also fine with moving on, because again, there are other things on the shelf which I'm really eager to showcase. Maybe before I continue, let's simply remind you what will happen at the end of the game. So every player still gets 1 point for each card they still have left in their hand. We will score those order cards here, depending on how many goods cards we have. And again, here only those physical token counts. In a 3 or 4 player game, there might have been these joker tiles in here too, but this is a scoring, and then we will check for the consecutive row of cities, and we'll do the multiplication depending on where we are on this favor track. Though right now, neither of the players would have a multiplier in here. So in order to score anything from your consecutive row of settlements, you would have at least to make it to this stage here. But rest assured, there are still 2 more decades to go, so they will both be able to, I think they should both at least be able to reach stage 2 and maybe even stage 3 up here in order to really maximize the score. And especially for the red player, this might become very, very crucial, because they did a good job so far keeping those settlements together. So next we could move to St. Petersburg, which would give us 1 more favor track. So this would help us both. We could move to Viborg, which is also another good style we'll need for our order card. We want to move down to Kiev here in order to score or get 1 extra order token we need here. So again, this is really a game with very, very simple rules, but is also offering an incredible amount of depth with a relatively low rules overhead, which is something I do enjoy these days in a board game. And it's also very, very quick, so a 2-player game shouldn't really take you much longer than 25-30 minutes or so. With maybe 3 or 4 players, yeah, it could go up to 45 minutes. But again, the better you know the game, the more better your decision making is, and the clearer it is what path you are taking. It's very tactical, so it's not very strategic, because in the end you have to work with what you get in respect to your order card, in respect to all of those action cards. And this is also something which I highly enjoy. I'm really preferring tactical games much more than I do appreciate more strategic games, where you have to, very early mistake can already mess up the game for you. In this case, again, as it's really, really tactical, to some extent, you really have to make the best out of your current situation, which is something I really do enjoy. And yeah, before I forget, a huge shout out to all my patrons and channel members out there. Again, terribly sorry for my long silence, but unfortunately health is first. But I really do hope I'm back in the saddle now. And yeah, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And yeah, I think until then, bye bye.